Hey guys, how's it going? This is Seth Keeping It Real, and I've received a whole lot of questions lately about what do you do when you're creating a store on Amazon, because they're going to ask you for your tax ID, also known as your EIN number, meaning Employee Identification Number. And so what kind of company are you supposed to be? You want to do this legally. You don't want to get sued. You don't want to get in trouble with the government. So how do you handle this? Well, generally speaking, there are three general types of organizations. There are others, but there's three main ones that I want to talk about. And the most simple one you could start with is called a sole proprietorship. Now, what a sole proprietorship means is you are the company. And if it's you and your spouse, it's still treated as you and your one company. And what it means is the owner is personally liable for any lawsuits that are filed against the business. So if at any point someone tried to sue you and they won that court case, they could take your car, they could take your house, they could take money from your personal bank account. So that is the one disadvantage of a sole proprietorship. However, on the other side, the advantage is you do not have to necessarily file with the state to become a sole proprietorship, because when the time comes for you to pay taxes, you're going to actually use your social security number as your identification number. Your social security number is the identification number for your business, just like it's an identification number for you personally. The other advantage is it's extremely easy to form and operate. It is not hard to create a sole proprietorship. And lastly, the owner reports business profit and loss on their personal tax return. So in other words, you're not paying tax on a company, you're paying tax personally. It's as if you were working for a company, you got paid, and then you're paying taxes off of that. This is how I started, and it's the one I recommend because it's very cheap. I was just talking to one of my clients in Washington and helping them get their Amazon store set up, and they're starting to really see some traction and opportunities. And she said in their state, it is only $35 to file as a sole proprietorship. Now keep in mind, no matter what kind of company you are, if you are shipping products to your state, then most states are going to require you to collect taxes on that. And you can call Amazon and talk to them about how to do that so that you're paying those taxes, which is something that I do. But apart from that, sole proprietorship is what I would start with. And when they ask you for your EIN number, your tax ID number, put in your social security number. The second kind of organization that I want to share with you is what's called an LLC, also known as a Limited Liability Company. Now I used to be sole proprietorship, and then I moved up to a limited liability company. The reason I did not begin as an LLC is because it is more expensive. It was $240 some, and I had very little money. I started with a dime, and it was very hard to shell out more money before I was even making money. But the advantage of being an LLC is you have what's called pass-through taxes. So in other words, you don't need to file a corporate tax return. If you're a corporation, you basically get taxed double on the shareholders and on the corporate income. But with an LLC, you don't do that. So basically the owners, let's say it's me and my wife, we're the LLC, or me and my business partner who owns a coffee shop, we report our share of profit and loss on our individual tax returns, which means we avoid double taxation. The other advantage is there's no residency requirement. So you don't have to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident of the U.S. in order to file as an LLC, also known as a limited liability company. Third advantage is you have legal protection. So owners have the limited liability for business debts and obligations. So again, let's say, for example, as you're growing, someone tried to sue you, God forbid they win that case, they can only sue your business assets, such as your business account, your business cars and vehicles, your business assets and properties. They cannot touch your personal car, your personal bank account, your dogs, your kids. Well, you get the idea. So you have a lot more protection, and that is one of the big advantages of being an LLC. It's kind of like, car insurance. You have to have liability. In other words, if you hurt someone else, right, then you're liable, or their car, you're liable to pay for it. Well, that's limited liability because they cannot take your personal stuff if they want to sue against you. The other advantage of this is the enhanced credibility. Partners, suppliers, lenders, if you ever move to a point where you're selling on a website as well and you're looking for people to invest in your company, they're going to look more favorably on your business when you're an LLC than if you're a sole proprietorship, because it's so easy to become a sole proprietorship. Some people may not take you seriously. Now at the beginning, if you're just selling on Amazon, eBay, starting your online store, a sole proprietorship is a great way to go. Don't freak out about the whole limited liability thing, because guess what? What are the chances of someone suing you when you just started out, right? It's only when you start to grow that people start noticing and either become your friends or your enemies, and things can happen. Now, there are disadvantages to being an LLC, and one of them is you have limited growth potential. Now, it's not going to affect you on Amazon and eBay so much, but if you truly start an e-commerce store or a retail store, you cannot issue shares of stock to attract investors. And a lot of companies want investors to grow their company. And there's also a lack of uniformity. An LLC can be treated differently in different states. So if you are a large company that's growing and you have different corporate offices in different states across the US, you have a lot of laws and organization rules to figure out because states treat them differently. And the last disadvantage is self-employment tax. Your earnings can be subject to that kind of taxation. So that is one of the disadvantages. But in my opinion, in my experience, most businesses do really well when they start as sole proprietorships and then move as quickly as they can to an LLC. It's especially good if you have different partners in your business who are not family members. Now, the last one I want to talk about, and keep in mind, these are not the only ones out there, but these are the main ones that affect most people, is a corporation. Now, a corporation is a little different because, when a company goes public and they have stocks and stuff, they are corporations, or they're required to be corporations in most cases. Their liability is limited as well. So an LLC, corporation, both limited liability. Someone cannot take your personal Honda car or your Mercedes Benz. They cannot take your house. They cannot take money out of your personal bank account. And this applies to the directors. It applies to the officers, the shareholders, the employees even. The other advantage is it has perpetual existence. In other words, let's say I'm the owner of a C corporation and I leave the company continues. It's not depending on that one person to continue. Also, it has an extremely enhanced credibility. So if you're a C corporation, you gain a lot of respect among suppliers and lenders. And a lot of times you can negotiate really good deals with them because of that. Another advantage is you have unlimited growth potential. I mean, the sky is the limit thanks to the sale of stock. There are no shareholders limit. However, once the company has 10 million in assets and 500 shareholders, you are required to register with the Securities Exchange Act. Under the Securities Exchange Act, you're required to register with the SEC. It's a 1934 Securities Exchange Act that you have to register with. You do have tax advantages, but the disadvantage, the big one, is you have double taxation. In other words, your revenue is going to be taxed at a company level and at a shareholder level, the shareholder dividends. And it's expensive to start. There are a lot of fees that come with filing. The government has a lot more regulations and formalities that you have to go through. There's a lot of paperwork. You need to hire a lawyer. So again, if you are exploding and growing and you are outside of Amazon and eBay as well, and you want to go public, a corporation is a great idea. Of all these three, my personal favorite is LLC, simply for the fact that at this time in my life, it fits me the best. But just remember and keep in mind, the key here is starting as sole proprietor makes total sense. And when Amazon asks you, when you're starting your store, for that EIN number, also known as your employee identification number, that's your social security number if you're sole proprietorship. Now, last thing, there's a lot of confusion over the difference between a tax ID, a state ID number and a federal ID number, okay? The EIN, employer identification number, is your tax ID for the government. It's what the IRS needs in order to file your taxes. So when you become an LLC or a C corporation, you're going to receive or you're going to apply to the IRS for a tax ID. But when you're sole proprietorship, you're just using your personal social security number. Hey, I hope that is helpful for you as you are in this journey of building your business. A lot of time I have found is wasted being on Amazon and trying to figure out what number do I stick in there. So I hope that saves you some time. Again, this is Seth Keeping It Real. If you are ever interested in getting more one-on-one coaching and training to ramp up your business really fast, that is something I can help you with. So just reach out or comment below. I currently have some 150 to 250% growth rate of people I'm working with in just the first few weeks. And it is pretty awesome. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Take care.